All right. All right. Perfect. Daniel, you are a co-host. You can start whenever you feel like.
I'm not sure if anyone can see, but my face is like really red right now. So Bobby, this is quite an introduction here. Yeah, just love what you guys are doing here, and love the meetup, and love that format. It's definitely something that can be incredibly helpful in an industry like real estate. So I'm not super familiar with the format, so like tell me where you want me to go with this, and I can talk forever. I tend to go at machine gun speed, so I'm going to try to slow down too. Happy to share a little bit of context about what we do at June Homes, and then maybe like you could just focus me on like any specific area that you'd like me to cover. And by the way, what is our like timing? Like, how much time do I have?
We can do, how about 30 minutes or so for like a formal presentation, and then we'll open it up a little bit for Q&A. And I know you have to get up early tomorrow, so you go for as long as you feel like, and as long as people are asking great questions, we go. And then, but we do have two more presenters, so I want to be respectful of them as well. Yeah.
No, that's plenty. I do have a red eye to catch in a couple of hours, so I'm going to head straight to the airport. Yeah, so essentially, quick background on me. I'm 29. I was born in Ukraine. I've built a youth hostel company that I started at the age of 11 from my grandmom's apartment. Never meant to be a business. Was supposed to be summer quick cash thing, and then basically I got stuck building it for 13 years. Ups and downs, almost went bankrupt, and formed a joint venture with an Israeli private equity fund that was going to invest $100 million. And it was, it was a pretty interesting, fascinating learning curve, both high school and college and university combined. And we became one of the largest operators in that part of the world, scaling to 13 cities. Funny metric, 2.5 complaints per minute. So very operational, very intense, a lot of fun stuff, and learned a lot of things. But one of the primary things that I learned is really how to build operational systems that tend to scale. It was definitely an interesting business. It was, one side of it was like, hey, like it's just like such a lifestyle cool thing to do when you have young students and college students from all over the world and traveling. It's genuinely a really positive thing to do. But then on the other hand, you have like a lot of operational complexity. Imagine if you have like 3 or 4 people sharing a dormitory room, and it's like all kinds of things happen. And but it was like a really interesting journey. So in like mid 2015, I was like, I sort of like had enough. I was 23, and I was like, okay, like I'm gonna like do other things, and essentially sort of like exited that business, got involved in investing, primarily on the prop tech side. So for a family office, basically one of the bidders on who wanted to buy my company was this basically family office, and they were like, hey, you seem to understand this thing called internet. How about you go and invest money in the internet companies, and specifically in prop tech space? So that's how I sort of got in prop tech space. And then basically slow evolution, arrived to the idea that A, I want to live in the US, B, I want to build a prop tech company, and C, sort of like the first version of June Homes that ended up being totally wrong started forming in my head. What is June Homes? What do we do? So we are bucketed as a managed marketplace model. A managed marketplace is essentially a more vertical version of a marketplace. So if you think about if Zillow was also operating real estate, that's basically the easiest way to put it. We serve 2 sides. We have tenants and we have landlords. We call landlords investors. We call tenants members. So for members, we are essentially an apartment rental brand that they could rent apartments and private rooms from. And 3 core brand pillars for tenants are flexibility. Every apartment is available for any duration, 1 to 12 months leases. Basically, the longer you stay, the cheaper it gets. Ultimate flexibility. You can stay for 1 month and 22 days, or you can stay for 12 months, whatever you want to do. 2, it's fully customizable. Every apartment could be rented furnished, unfurnished, or partially furnished, and a tenant could basically select how they want to deliver it right on the website, and we will basically deliver it in the way they want it on the day of their move-in. And 3, much better quality of customer service than traditional real estate. So everything is digitized, everything is in the app. They basically download June Homes app, They search apartments, tour them online, apply online, sign leases online, pay rent online, and it's all custom built technology that we've essentially created ourselves. And that's like the tenant side. And then the landlord side, investor side, one of the interesting realizations we had was that because flexible leasing allowed us to achieve a couple of really interesting insights on the investor side. One thing that we've learned is that by offering flexibility to people, we can completely eliminate in-person tours, which essentially eliminates a large chunk of expenses that investors typically have. So 96% of tenants would never tour apartments in person. They would be comfortable signing their leases completely remotely. They didn't require in-person tours. And the only way we were able to achieve that is by offering two things. We said, hey, you could rent for any duration that you want. So that flexibility essentially made it easier for people to make that decision and commit to signing a lease remotely. And two, we said, if you don't like your apartment and upon move-in within the first 7 days, you can move into any other Dream Homes for free. And by giving people that satisfaction guarantee, which is something that our generation is really used to, like when you buy software, you have 30 days to cancel it. Why does it have to be different with the lease? By creating those two things, we're like, okay, we completely eliminated in-person tours, which essentially created a whole bunch of efficiencies and eliminated a lot of different expenses and inefficiencies. Because if you think about in-person tours, most of the time, especially in larger buildings, leasing managers are sitting idle because times when people actually want to tour are A, outside of typical working hours, and B, it's a very imperfect date range. So essentially, like most people want to tour on Friday evening or Saturday, and no one wants to tour on Monday 10 a.m. Just to put it simply. So essentially, that was like basically benefit number one that we were realized, okay, really interesting outcome. Benefit number two was flexible leases essentially meant that people tend to default less. So at the time when National Apartment Association says that average default rate in the US is around 5.5%, our tenants were defaulting at 0.2% rate. So essentially, they basically didn't default because they were not locked in those long-term leases, and they didn't feel like they had to default. And it was real outliers and human errors every time we got a defaulting tenant or non-paying rent tenant. So essentially, flexible leases gave us ability to decrease the amount of tenant defaults, dramatically decrease, 25 times less. And three, by offering people flexibility and convenience in customizable rentals, we were able to significantly decrease time on market. At the time when New York City was averaging 70 days time on market in between leases, our average was 3.5 days. So essentially, apartments got filled much faster because we essentially provided a product that tenants want. So we've built a business for investors / landlords where we convert traditional 12 months rentals, whether or not it's single family homes or a multifamily, in this network of flexible on-demand housing. We manage it, we operate it, we provide, we essentially fill those homes, we handle all the leasing, we handle all the marketing, we create marketing materials, we invest in underlying real estate, we upgrade it, we furnish it, we do anything, all of the necessary actions on the ground. And then we handle all of the tenant communications. So essentially, tenants communicate through us, they pay through us. Even if tenant is late on their rent, Dream Homes still pays rent on the first day of the month and basically eliminates any of the hassle for the owner and any rent chasing kind of situations. We are, as a company, we're 3.5 years old. We're in 8 different markets. We don't have a lot of presence on the West Coast, but that's one of our top priorities. We were traditionally very strong on the East Coast, and New York City is our home. So we expanded this year from 660 to 2,200 units. We've raised $50 million from SoftBank, which is basically famous for a lot of prop tech investments. And the big picture idea is we think that we have a really interesting model that basically solves pain points for tenants and pain points for landlords. We tend to have very high NPS, Net Promoter Score, which is essentially a way to track satisfaction for tenants and landlords, way higher than industry average. And we have a very humble goal. And our humble goal is to become the world's largest residential landlord that doesn't own a single property. So that's Dream Homes in a nutshell.
Wow, amazing. So Daniel, quick question for you. Do you sign a master lease with the landlords, or And then what is, you mentioned that you guarantee the rent to the landlords. Is that a calculation you've done based on, maybe you have maybe problems collecting rent, especially, I don't know, during COVID, did you run into any issues with collecting rent, especially like in places like New York City, New Jersey? Just curious about that. How do you manage the guarantee portion of the rent? And then what's your relationship with the landlords?
So the guarantee is essentially, it's a really good question. So the guarantee is essentially a function of, it's a risk return ratio. That's really all it is. So essentially, when we look at every property, we automatically generate a quote for the landlord, and we say, option one, June Homes is on the hook. We're going to guarantee you rent no matter what. Option two, we sign a revenue share agreement where you increase your top line. And depending on what that specific landlord investor is optimizing for, some people have higher risk tolerance, some people have lower risk tolerance. Some people are in the strategy of like, hey, I'm going to buy a multifamily, I'm going to refinance it in 3 months, I need guarantees today. So different strategies, but owner always gets two proposals. One is essentially full guarantee no matter what. Second is a revenue share. In every model, we guarantee rental payments from tenants. So there's a difference between guaranteeing occupancy and guaranteeing rental payments for tenants. If we place a tenant, June Homes is always on the hook for payments of that tenant, regardless of however long it takes for us to evict them in case of a default. And basically, we guarantee and we make those payments on the first day of the month, no matter what. And the reason we are comfortable doing that is because we just have a lot of data and we understand how to underwrite tenants better. And we know that tenants that tend to sign flexible leases tend to default less. So even during COVID, our peak months was 0.3% default rate. So we're not talking big numbers. We're pretty comfortable making those promises.
Got it. And I'm going to let the audience or the members also ask questions, but do you also look at, so when a landlord is evaluating whether they should put their property on, apartments.com or Zillow Rent Manager or whatever, or contact June in the markets that you're operating in, what's the advantage to the landlord? Like, just high level, what are some of the benefits to the landlords?
Well, it's completely different. It's completely different buckets. So essentially, we don't eat Zillow's bread. We're not in their business. We're in the business of, we're going to eliminate your brokerage fee. We're going to eliminate your management fee. And we're going to improve your property performance and decrease the number of days on market. And we're not going to charge you a top line fee for that. We will only make a percentage of the increase we are able to generate above your market rent. So if you want $2,000 for a studio in, I don't know, Mission district in San Francisco, and I'm sorry for picking a very cliche neighborhood, but if that's the case, right? If your market rent is $2,000, and we know that by offering flexibility, convenience, customizable rentals, ancillary upsells to tenants, we can make $2,600. We will only take a percentage of the increase. So it's actually like a really favorable and aligned deal for the owner. And we're not in the business of charging a fee if the owner is not making the right return. We're in the business of adding value, and we can afford to do that because we have access to venture capital, and we were comfortable early on taking on those risks that traditional real estate companies were unable to do because they just didn't have enough balance sheet to do that.
Yep. Makes sense. All right, I'm gonna open it up for other folks. I know some questions came in. One came in from Bruce. What does the revenue share percentage look like?
Market by market, but for West Coast, most of our deals are promote type structures. Basically, market rent, June Homes only takes a percentage above that market rent.
Got it.
And that specific percentage is basically depends on the specific property, specific resale margins, and we generate a custom quote to the landlord. So if you give us an address within 24 hours, we'll give you a proposal that what exactly that is.
Got it. And then I have Kieran who wants to know, this is the Uber of rental homes where you don't own the rental property, but manage the rental life cycle with optimized efficiencies. Is that a good comparison?
So our thesis is whether or not it's Uber or Airbnb or whatever that is, our thesis is that because of COVID and because of all the trends that happened pre-COVID, and again, like, I mean, I'm sure people may disagree with this thesis, but that's just sort of how we think about it. And again, we could be totally wrong, but our thesis is that residential real estate will, over time, start to look more and more like hospitality. And coming from hospitality, I understand really well that whole like mindset of like how hotels, who owns hotels and who operates hotels. And if you look at hospitality today and hotel business specifically, it's typically a different company that owns the underlying real estate asset and operates the underlying real estate assets. And that happened for a reason, and that was an evolution within hotel industry. Back in the day, Marriott would own their hotels. Today, Marriott owns less than 2% of their hotels. And the primary reason for that is because you need to be, it's two different companies, it's two different cultures, it's two different everything if you're a real estate owner and if you're a real estate operator. And we think that's where residential real estate is going to go. And we think that residential real estate will see consolidation. And we think that in residential real estate, there are going to be multi-billion-dollar brands, real estate brands that don't own underlying real estate. Just like Marriott or Four Seasons or Hilton or whatever that is, basically doesn't own underlying hotels, yet they operate them on scale. And we think that because of all the trends caused by COVID, where people are going to rent flexibly, people are going to split time between cities, people are going to travel and live this nomadic lifestyle, there are going to be residential real estate brands that essentially operate other people's real estate. So we think about ourselves more as Marriott for residential real estate than Uber for residential real estate, where on scale, June Homes is a brand that people trust, like, and rent from, whether or not it's San Francisco or New York or London or Beijing or Tel Aviv or any other location. That's sort of how we think about it.
Got it. Would you say Sonder is a competitor, or is that a different play?
Again, if we take that like hotel business as basically direction of where this is going, there is going to be multiple different brands and different pricing segments. Yep. Just like Four Seasons and Hilton don't compete with each other, yep, Sonder and June Homes do not compete with each other. So fast forward 20 years from now, I think there are going to be companies that are going to have multiple brands in their portfolio. And I think June Homes on scale will operate dozens of different brands that fit certain subgroups of tenants in different locations. Just like when you're Hilton, when you're Marriott, you're placing a Courtyard or a Marriott itself, depending on the landlord, on the location. Like, what's the target audience? Like, is it near airport or is it near business, financial district? Like, based on those factors, we're going to have multiple different brands. And I think there are going to be multiple different companies in the space that operate portfolios of brands, whether or not it's Sonder or Lyric or Blueground. There are many different players. We take a very unique approach to it. We focus on very different type of real estate. And we are also building an asset-light profitable business versus just burning through investors' cash.
Yeah, no, very good. I've only heard very good things about June Homes. Really impressed with the 20 managing 22 homes in 3.5 years. That's not a joke. That's a serious milestone that you've hit. And so when you look at new markets, what do you look at? I'm sure you look at occupancy rates and so on and so forth, but what do you look for in new markets? And then most of our members are small to medium-sized real estate operators, real estate owners. How can they maybe work with you in the future in the markets that you want to operate in? We'd love to figure that, maybe collaboration out with you as well.
That's a really good question, and we think that 2,200 units is a good number, but our aspiration is in a different place. So it's just the beginning. Primarily, it's an urban concept. The gist of the concept is it's a good concept for cities right now. On scale, we're probably going to have suburban and rural brands, but right now it's an urban concept. So basically, urban real estate in good tier 1, tier 2 neighborhoods. Whether or not it's pretty much any unit types and any unit mix, anything from studios and one bedrooms to multi-bedroom units. we're pretty good in multi-bedroom units, basically renting to roommates that and matching roommates to move into specific homes and renting multi-bedroom units. In terms of new markets, we're expanding this year to more cities on the West Coast. So we don't have presence in San Diego. We have very little presence in LA. We're going to become much bigger there before the end of the year. We expect to launch a couple of hundred units between those two markets before the end of the year. And then San Francisco, Bay Area, Oakland are basically markets that we understand quite well. And we are going to continue expanding there as well.
One last question for me, and then I'm going to open it up for the other folks as well. I think I'm monopolizing the time. Last question: does evictions play into the lease? Like, do you write the lease in such a way that it's more like a hospitality lease or versus a residential lease?
On the the lease that we signed with our tenants, it's very standard, as it gets. So basically, whatever this local pre-printed lease form that is. So in New York City, it's Real Estate Board of New York. I think in San Francisco, we have another pre-printed form that everyone uses. So we basically, especially with banks and lenders, as plain vanilla, the more plain vanilla, the better. So essentially, we're very standard and very predictable and very easy to work with from that standpoint of view. And there are some places where innovation is great, and there are some places where innovation is not great. And that's like one of the places where we think being conservative is the right thing to do. Very nice, very nice. All right, I'm gonna let. I know Jason had some questions for you. So Jason, if you are listening, go ahead and ask Daniel your questions.
Thank you, Bobby. Thank you, Daniel. And as you were just talking about the home renovations, I can't help but think about some of the tax kind of situations with June Homes. And I was wondering, when June Homes makes a renovation for a home, who gets to write off that capital expenditure, and how does the tax situation kind of work from the investor perspective?
Yeah, we've got to define renovations. Our renovations is minor cosmetic upgrades that essentially increase rents and improve the building performance and rentability of it. So we're not talking major capital improvements. We're not talking major structural changes. That's not who we are, and we think landlords are better at this. And but we know what are the 10, 12, 13 little things that are going to change the perception of the space quickly. Our average turnaround time is 6 days. So between the time we take possession and the time we relist the property on our website. So we're not talking major structural repairs. So the tax consequences, I think it's really what landlords do themselves. But we know that, if you give us access to a space, we're going to look at it, we're going to follow standard checklist, and we know exactly what works, what doesn't work. What should be the main photo that we should use to list your property to decrease the number of days on market on a local website? What should be the description? What should be the price? What should be the price range? How many people click on which filter? Those things we understand really, really well. And we basically generate those insights again, because we have access to bigger data pools, and we have 35 engineers building technology full-time all over the world. So but that's, I don't know if I fully answered your question, but I think directionally that's how we think about it.
No, that makes it super clear. And just speaking of which, I just want to say that I've seen some of the renovations that you guys have done. You really make the place look so much more modern. And I was just kind of wondering, I'm not sure if it's spilling your secret sauce, but what are some top renovations that a landlord can make that will improve the ROI of the rental?
Yeah, that's a good question. Market specific. Each market is different. I could tell you that in New York City, the number one improvement that basically improves performance is installing washer and dryer. That thing basically significantly changes the performance of the building. But that said, in LA, that's probably not an issue, I would guess. Again, I'm not an expert in the LA market, so it's city by city specific. But we generate. We have a really cool team. It's called Insights team, and it's like a couple of really smart data scientists. And the guy who leads it is like a PhD in astrophysics that basically used computer science to research new universes using existing satellite imagery. And he's like the smartest person I've ever met in my life. And basically they have like this team that essentially works on generating those insights, both from public and private data. And there are some like really interesting local insights that that they generate. So we typically share them with landlords, and we're like, hey, like this is things that we've learned, and we just like to share that.
Wow. Anybody else from the audience? Go ahead and unmute yourself and ask, or you can chat if you have any questions.
I have a question.
Yeah. Hey, go ahead, Daniel.
Yeah, hey, Daniel. My name is also Daniel. Great name. I'm actually, kind of your cohort as far as age goes. And I stayed at an outsite, which is something similar. You probably heard of outsite. It's a co-living situation. Just to get my feet wet with Austin, Texas, where I currently am. So I really love the concept of co-living. I think the question I have for you, and what I was wondering is, what's the break even on vacancy rate? So say you have a unit with 4 rooms, and if one of those rooms stays vacant while the other 3 are occupied, what's the break even to debt service on your, basically on your lease?
Yeah, that's a good question. Market specific. Again, different cities, different profiles. I would say it has to be above 80%. Otherwise, something is totally off. 80% occupancy across basically the property. So if it's 4 bedrooms, 80% of the, and it's not really even like how many rooms. It's really how many nights of rooms per year have to be occupied, because it's flexible durations. So everything below 80%, it's like a major issue. Everything above 80% tends to work, but then it's city specific. So like our stabilized portfolio, which is essentially properties that are 90 days, that have been launched for more than 90 days, is above 92% across the country. But we know that a lot of like other companies, they're like at low 60s or mid 60s. So, I mean, occupancy is the key driver, and you're spot on that. So keeping it high is very important. But again, like what are we trying to solve? Like, what metric are we trying to solve? Like, for example, would you rather get additional 7% increase in rent by letting it sit for another 12 days? Those are the kind of decisions that we programmatically build technology to decide for. We have dynamic pricing engine with dozens of different factors built into this that programmatically adjust based on season, number of leads, number of other competing listings on different websites. There is a lot of insights you could make from both public and private data and optimize for both price and occupancy.
And follow-up question to that is, you guys seem to be in control of these people's, control where they live, control kind of, they're new to a city. Do you guys have any like auxiliary business plans? Like, oh, we can lease them a car, or we could be in charge of their laundry, takeout in these new cities. Just kind of a pivot there, but yeah, thank you.
That's also a really good question, because if you think about it, like your average millennial spends 35% of their income on rent. But then they spend another 5 to 7% on other services that are sort of like surrounding in like broader ecosystem, like cleaning, grocery delivery, and a bunch of other things. And like it almost like makes a lot of sense to like offer that. If you have so much information about that tenant, and so many insights, like you could offer those value-add services and generate a revenue to owners from places where they traditionally didn't make revenue. Like one of our biggest upsells right now is basically custom furnishings, where you could rent your property both furnished or unfurnished, and we obviously make margins on furniture, and that value add ancillary revenue was split with owners, and owners start making money on things where they traditionally have never really made money of that. So yeah, I mean, that's definitely a business plan, and we're definitely going to expand and build both tech and partnerships with other companies.
All right, anybody else? If not, we will let Daniel get to the airport.
Hi, I was going to ask, do you have any?
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Kiran, go ahead.
I had one quick question. So do you have any preference for the type of properties, like independent homes, condos, or
No.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Yeah. Yep, I can hear you. So your question was whether or not we have preference for certain types of properties. The answer is no. We basically work with all kinds of properties. From
Yeah, you can hear me, right?
Yes, Karen, we heard you.
Yeah, so we basically work with anything from studios to 6-bedroom homes. So basically, like all kinds of homes. Ideally, the stay duration should.
Thank you.
Ideally, the stay duration should not be restricted. So, for example, if you have a condo and the condo rules are like 9 months minimum or 6 months minimum, that doesn't tend to work that well because like offering flexibility is just the core pillar of the platform. And then two, if condo rules are really restrictive on approvals and basically it's like a 3-week approval process, that doesn't work because the whole key here is like instant booking, instant reservations, instant leasing unlocks a lot of doors. So our average approval time is 3 hours between the time when someone submits a tenant application and the application has been approved. It's done by a separate 24/7 team that basically is completely isolated from sales, has a completely different KPI and motivation, and makes commission of basically separate metrics. And basically that team provides a very quick, very efficient approval process, and it's important to keep it that way. So the answer is basically if it's like a lengthy approval process by the condo board, that doesn't work that well. Those are probably the only two restrictions.
Yeah. So HOAs and condo boards and those they can be maybe slightly problematic. So got it.
Sorry, one more. If it's like rent controlled, SRO, very restricted, we don't do that. So basically, it has to be just market property.
And Daniel, if somebody had rental properties in the market that you're operating in or about to operate in, what's the right protocol for them to get hold of the right person in your organization?
So I could actually, can I post a link or is that
promotion? You can post the link.
Okay, fine. So I'll post the link to the website. It's very simple. Submit, a quick form. It's only like a couple of small questions. And then a representative will reach out. Typically we reach out same business day. Typically we'll give proposal next business day. So it's quick, efficient, and basically I'll post a link here in the chat. And I also received a question here in direct message that I could also answer. Do you serve house sharing? Which I basically understand whether or not we serve roommates. And yes, the answer is we basically have shared homes. That's the majority of our business. We basically work with roommates and multi-bedroom properties.
Excellent. Wonderful. And any last minute questions for Daniel? Anybody? Let's see. Okay, there's the link. Thank you for owners. Okay, great. Well, truly appreciate it, Daniel. I know you're super busy building out your company and growing rapidly. So thank you so much for taking the time to come and hang out with our members and kind of educating them, sharing with them your journey. Maybe we'll have you back one day. I'm very curious about what was I doing when I was 11, versus what you were doing when you were 11. So maybe talk about your childhood and what made you successful so early on. So thank you for making the time. We truly appreciate it.
Thank you so much, and thanks for the. You make me red again. That's what you do. Hopefully in person next time, and I appreciate being a part of the call today.
You got it. All right, thank you, sir.
Perfect.
All right, with that, we're gonna turn it over to Jeri, who's been patiently waiting for us. And hello, Jeri. There's the camera, and so a little. We were having an interesting conversation about what time people go to sleep, and so we'll save that for later. I don't want to shock people, but all right. So let's see. Stratafolio learned about you again from Jason, and saw what you were doing for commercial operators, very similar to what we're doing in Better Capital, but for more residential operators. But KPIs and documentation and financials so important. So yeah, I'm going to turn it over to Jeri. Frank, tell us a little bit about yourself, your company, and maybe a demo.
Yeah.
And where you're at.
Yeah. Yeah, I will actually share a deck that has images of the product so people can see it. Let me share that here. And everyone can see that, correct?
Yep.
Right, excellent. Just a little bit about myself and Uriel Brillis. So we are the co-founders of Stratifolio, and I'll be taking you through this presentation, but please, if you have questions, please feel free to ask. It's really not a problem to just ask me some questions. But really, all of this started with Uriel and myself. So Uriel and I, not only are we business partners, but we're also married. And so we were buying real estate. And at the time that we started buying real estate, I was a director at Pearson, and Uriel was a senior software systems engineer in the aerospace industry. And so these were not 9-to-5 jobs, but we were taking bonuses and buying real estate. And every single month, what we noticed is we were doing a lot of manual calculations on how everything was performing. And, at some point you have this realization that really you shouldn't be operating this way at all. So we had the opportunity to go through a local accelerator program. And then we worked with some commercial developers in our area, which ultimately became the basis for what you see today. But we started in a spreadsheet to prove out our concept before we ever dropped a line of code. But today I'm going to take you through what it is now and how we help our customers. So I'll talk to you about what we do and then kind of our pricing and onboarding process, because it is different than a lot of products that are out in this space. One of the common issues that we encounter among those who own and manage commercial real estate is there is a lot of double data entry and time-consuming processes and procedures. And one of our clients was from Miami, and we have a lot of strip malls in our portfolio, and they had 35 strip malls and industrial spaces, and they had this exact problem that we were talking about. And through our onboarding process, we discovered that they had missed $90,000 in revenue for the year. And their subscription and onboarding was only a fraction of that $90,000. And we see this exact same scenario playing out across all of our customers. And Stratafolio is a web-based software solution, and we integrate seamlessly with QuickBooks, both desktop and online. And we take spreadsheet uploads for owners that work with other accounting systems or work with third-party property managers. And the way we work with people who own and manage commercial real estate is in 4 very specific areas. One is financial management, and that is where we provide a global view and an entity level view of financial performance. We also help with asset management, which is knowing what you own and where it's at, including the size of those properties as well. Then operations management, which is that day-to-day activity of managing an asset. And then investor management, because most of our clients bring on outside capital, so they need to be able to track that and have an investor login. With Stratafolio, we have built our technology with flexibility in mind, because everybody in real estate likes to push the envelope in terms of creativity. And so we are able to adapt to these ever-changing real estate landscape. So with Stratifolio, you're able to have an enterprise level product that sits alongside your established accounting foundation. First, I'm going to show you what financial management looks like for Stratifolio. Most owners and CFOs would like to be able to see a global view of how their companies are performing. Yet the process to do this correctly is so time intensive that most don't actually do it. And so with Stratifolio, we make this process seamless. With Stratifolio, you have access to a comprehensive view of your entire organization. In this case, Brookline is the parent company with 4 separate legal entities that reside within it. And I'll speak to the highlighted areas as I go through this. At the very top, you can see a number of filters, and this allows you to control the information that you're seeing. And right now you're looking at a global view, but you can select an individual entity or company and drill into that. Here you can see the metrics from income all the way down to cash flow on a cash basis. And you can see this in real time. And then finally, you also have access to a detailed cash flow report that provides you specifics about your income and expenses. So let me show you how this works. By selecting the dropdown under the entity, you just select a single entity to see how it's performing. Or you can select, if you want, a different preset of time. And as you see, things are changing all over. The timeline changes, everything is dynamically updating. And as you hover over any of the graphs, more information will pop up as well. Everything is dynamic and in real time, and it gives you an instant view of your portfolio. So most of the time, if you were doing this in a spreadsheet, you would have to compile all of this information. Remember how you put all of your charts of accounts together so that you could see all of this information. Now I'm going to address the other side of the balance sheet, which is the liability side. And the problem with most accounting software is they have no utility or ability to track loans. And therefore, people have to resort to spreadsheets to track all their loans. And to help combat that, we have developed this loan dashboard. And it's an entirely unique way to present and manage all of your debt and assets. In fact, many of the lenders we've spoken to about Stratafolio were not only going to suggest it to their clients, but have also told us that they would offer discounted interest rates if their clients were using Stratafolio, because the organization and automation means it's less risk for that lender. I'll show you how it works. These filters, again, filter the same way as they did on the owner's dashboard. It's dynamic and it controls the entire screen. And these filters function the same because we connect to QuickBooks. As you are paying your loans each month, you will have an accurate record of your current total debt and equity and other important metrics like loan to value. We're also monitoring each of your loans and notifying you of upcoming loans that are coming due. Plus, we provide a global view of your interest rate and breakdown by debt and lender and asset type. And finally, at the very bottom here, you can see a list of every single loan that you have in your portfolio. The dashboard is an interactive way so you can drill down and analyze your portfolio. You can view this globally, or you can get as granular as you like. For example, you can filter by the lender to see exactly how much is outstanding with any single lender. And here you can see that this local credit union has 2 outstanding loans. And we see these loans are for 2 different legal entities. And if we keep drilling down, now you're able to see all of the details for just that single loan. Or you can just go back to your global view. It's easy as that. But I want to point out a little more about the table at this very bottom. Every table in Stratafolio is exportable. So you're able to select the columns you want to display, or you can also adjust the positions. And we can now look at an individual loan where you can see all of your loan details. In addition, you can add or update asset valuations or upload files to your loans. But the most important details about your loan are located in a single location, so you no longer have to keep digging through your original loan documents. It is all here. Next, I'm going to talk about asset management. And if you've ever gone through a portfolio review with your insurance provider or lender and have had to provide detailed information about each of your assets, I'm sure most of you have at some point. With Stratafolio, we make this very simple for you and your team. all the detailed information you need is accessible to you at any time from anywhere. So we're going to look at Lionfish. And from this location, you can manage all the information you need on your asset. You can look at the building, the units, the loans, and valuation. And the point is you're reducing the time it takes to share this information with those who need it. And by popular demand, we've also added a file management system. And this allows you to add files from anywhere in the system, tag that file with a certain file type for easy retrieval, and then you can save all the time it takes to go through your filing cabinets and get everything you need in just seconds. Before, our customers used to manage their files through hard to understand structures that only one single person seemed to understand. Or it was an email, thumb drives, filing cabinets, but it caused teams to spend significant amounts of time digging through files, but not anymore. The next very significant piece that we're going to talk about is operations management. And this is where most of our customers struggle the most. And here we're going to talk about the one word that everyone hates, and that is CAM. And everyone hates it because it is such a time-sensitive, intensive activity. But if it's done wrong, you're leaving money on the table. And so we simplify that process. I'm going to show you some of the most impactful ways we can help you with lease management. You will notice all the colors here. So we're providing you with emails and visual alerts, letting you know exactly which leases have escalations coming due, so you don't ever have to miss a lease escalation again. The pain and the impact are real. And 2 out of 3 people we work with have missed lease escalations at one point or another. Before I go on, it looks like we may have a couple of questions in the chat session, so I want to just see if there are things that we need to address this. Okay, I'll address your questions at the end. Yeah, so now I'm going to dive into one tenant in particular, pharmacy store, to learn more. So pharmacy, here you're looking at a mini lease abstract for this tenant, and it contains a summary of the most vital information or elements of the lease, along with some additional tabs that contain all the information you need to manage your lease efficiently. So the first thing we're going to take a look at is the OpEx tab, which contains CAM. Here you can find all your historical operating budgets. And in this case, we have budgets for 2019, 2020, and 2021. But let's take a look at the 2021 budget. And with Stratafolio, you can see exactly where you stand at for this budget at any time during the year. And you can look at the actuals as well. And once here, you can review your budget. And let's highlight that for a second. This is the 2021 budget for pharmacy store, and we estimated a budget of $102,000 for the year. Next to it, you can see what was billed for the year up to date and what your actual total expenses have been. And in this case, you can see that the tenant was a little over $11,000. They're receiving a credit. At the end of the year, you can generate a report for this for your tenants. But we don't just stop there. Let's take a look at bulk invoicing as well. With Stratafolio, you can invoice all of your different QuickBooks companies from one location with one click. And these invoices will contain the correct lease escalation and operating expense charges. Missing a lease escalation becomes a thing of the past. And just about every single customer that we work with struggles with this. Next thing I'm going to show you is work orders. With Stratifolio, you can track all of your work orders by priority, status, due date, and more. You can also gain a complete history of all the work that's been performed across your entire portfolio. And we have just released, finally, the certificates of insurance. This was a highly requested feature. And this feature automates the tracking, reminders, and verification required of insurance required of all tenants. And next, we're going to talk about investor management. Many of you have experienced that one investor or partner who is routinely calling and asking for updates. And if you have to stop what you're doing and get together a report for them. And at the same time, many of you have also been involved in investor presentations to raise new capital. And nothing builds investor confidence with lenders and investors more than having real-time access and quick responses to their questions. So this highlights a list of every investor in your portfolio. And so let's take a look at Jane Doe, who runs the Brookline organization. She's also an investor in her own company. The investor details tab shows a high-level view of all of the investments she has in her portfolio. But if she wants to drill down for more information, she can click on the investment tab for more details. And this view allows her to understand her portion of all of her investments, and she can keep drilling down to a single investment to view that performance. And as with all of our views, she will be able to export this table below to either CSV, Excel, or PDF and choose which columns she wants to keep or remove. We also offer an investor login so you can give your investors access to their investments if you choose to take this approach. Or you can export that data if you want to send it to them, but it will be here in real time at your fingertips. And finally, let me tell you a little bit about what makes Stratafolio unique. So we're going to talk about onboarding. And I'm also going to show you some of the things that really make Stratafolio unique is that automation. Everything we do is to reduce the amount of human error. You can collaborate across team members. You can include your accountant, your bookkeepers, your attorneys if you want, and it's real-time data and analytics to help you succeed. This product is for people who are owners, they're managers, they use QuickBooks, and they use a third-party property manager. But the big thing is they're tired of doing repetitive manual work. So our full service onboarding, we do that onboarding work because most people's teams are strapped for time. So you provide all that information, the loans, the leases, the spreadsheets, and we drive getting everything loaded correctly. Our onboarding team is led by US-based accountants who are QuickBooks Pro advisors, and they're experts at what they do, and they know real estate. And 95% of the time, our onboarding team finds lost and immediate near-term opportunities to recover revenue. And these lost revenue opportunities amount to more than the actual cost of the software. And unlike other software customer service onboarding in the industry, we take great pains with onboarding and training afterwards. So your team is really comfortable with the product and knows how to operate it. And we're available for questions afterwards. I did want to mention that one of the things we also do is we do a lot of educational events because we think it's very important to help our customer base operate as efficiently as possible. And so one of the things that we do is LinkedIn Lives or Facebook Lives about once a month. And we actually are holding one event tomorrow at noon Central, and it's HVAC winterization tips for commercial real estate owners. So you can find us on LinkedIn to sign up for that. And finally, I did want to also note that we are offering a discount for people on the line if they are interested. Just contact me here. And I'm going to also post in here a link to our demo. If you want to request a demo, you can reach out through there. All right, I'm sorry I didn't do a very good job of looking for your questions along the way, but what questions do you all have?
Jeri, a quick question from me. I know that a lot of loans are tied to LIBOR, like a few hundred basis points above LIBOR. And now that LIBOR is kind of going away, Like, how does that gonna work? Like, what if there's different indices? Like, is this still gonna be working on Stratafolio?
It will work just fine. So when we're integrating with QuickBooks, we're pulling in whatever data is there. So that lender and that client or our client may be renegotiating terms, but whatever gets renegotiated is what will go into QuickBooks ultimately as that line item or chart of account that we're connecting to.
Very cool. And also just had a question about the common area maintenance. Like, can you go a bit deeper into how that's gonna work? And like, would it work with the audit? Like, how does it work?
Yeah, so one of the things that we're tracking about the asset is the size of that asset itself, the rentable square feet. And we know the size of every single unit that resides within that building. And most of our tenants or most of our clients have pro rata share of that space. So because as those expenses are coming in, they come into QuickBooks and they get allocated to the correct account. And then once those accounts pull into Stratafolio, those expenses get allocated appropriately across the tenants that are in that building. Does that answer your question?
Perfect. Thank you.
Very. And Jeri, how do you price your product? Is this a SaaS model? How do you do your pricing?
Yeah, it is a SaaS model. It's based on the number of buildings in a portfolio, which is different than a lot of property management solutions out there, which focus on the number of units. But we have specifically focused on building count because we have a lot of owners who use third-party property managers. And if you are one of those people that uses a third-party property manager, you know that you get this large 90-page PDF every single month. And if you have 10 of those, it makes it really hard to actually know what's going on. So you can get Excel spreadsheets from those third-party property managers, upload them directly into Stratafolio, and you finally have a complete view of everything in your portfolio. So when you want to provide a personal financial statement or understand what you have outstanding in terms of asset value, it's easy to pull that together. So we have, our pricing is based on the number of buildings in a portfolio, as well as the what level that they need. So we have 3 different levels. The essential level is more towards people who have single family homes. We take in 12 different asset classes, but primarily our customer base are people who own commercial buildings, retail, office, industrial type buildings, triple net leases, essentially.
Got it. And how long has the company been around?
Yeah, we officially started selling in January of 2020, right before COVID hit. Great time to start.
Good timing.
Yeah. Well, we did have a hypothesis going in that as things became more challenging financially, that people would have to identify much quicker where they were hemorrhaging cash. And that is exactly what came to bear. And because we see a lot of opportunities where people are they're not monitoring their lease escalations as closely as they could, because it was all a manual process. And so there's lots of ways to automate things, to reduce your staff load, and just to be more efficient with your staff that's out there, and make sure that you're capturing all of your revenue that is definitely owed to you.
Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. Any questions from the members for Jeri?
I do see a question on how labor intensive is this to set up? Yeah, so it's highly dependent on what you have in your, or what kind of assets you have. So when we do the onboarding or implementation process, we will ask for loans, leases, rent rolls, previous CAM reconciliation, we've been through this a number of times, so we have a pretty good process down. Most of the time, we plan for 30 to 45 days from the beginning to end of that process.
Okay. Question that just came in. Does Stratafolio help with local property management, like taking care of parking lot maintenance or roof repair, or just helping landlords or commercial property owners with their tasks and financials?
Yeah, who we focus on is that owner manager persona, the person who owns the land or owns the property and is also managing it. They call themselves the property manager. We're not generally going after people who are a third-party property manager. We are after that owner manager segment.
Got it.
It looks like Steve Lemke is raising his hand.
Oh, hey, Steve.
Hey, no, I just had a question. It's a fascinating thing as I'm not into commercial, but had, many properties in many states, and having a system that pulls all this together looks absolutely amazing. As a software engineer, I cringe to think about you guys crunching these 90-page statements or Excels or whatever. Is this sort of outsourcing to people who are doing that, or have you figured out like super cool ways to just ingest all of that reliably and parse all of that data? Is that a custom setup for each new thing, or do you kind of go, oh, we get this as rentmanager.com, we know how to parse their thing and so forth?
Yeah, it's an ongoing automation thing. Obviously, there are that we automate more and more all the time. It's something that we always look at because I understand exactly what you're saying, and we continue to improve that process because there are ways to ingest that data faster and faster all the time. And that's part of the things that Uriel has his eye on as the CTO.
Yeah, that's awesome. Congratulations on that. And I guess the only other thing I would add to that is that, like, even I've seen cases where different property managers use the same software very differently. Mm-hmm. And I know that, one big pain for me every year was realizing the statements they gave me were not enough to file my Schedule E's at the end of the year, because it was almost like the people that are doing the entry on the property manager side had never seen a Schedule E before. And, some of that feels like there's always like some amount of either going back and educating them about their own data entry process, or, trying to figure out how to translate all of that over to the tax guy. Maybe that's just a final question is I assume you generate, helpful reports for your tax guy at the end of the year too from all of this, right?
We certainly help improve that process so that their report, that time that it takes to be in that space to be able to actually report out is much faster. And a lot of what we see is there is some education that happens along the way. So if we notice something, we will share with our clients, if there's something that we're seeing that's off or could be done differently, or just helping them be more efficient with how they manage their books.
Right. Like also, another example of that is, property managers don't distinguish between capital improvements that need to be amortized and things that are actually repairs and make ready expenses and things like that.
Right. Yes.
Yep.
Yes. That's a very large one for us, because you have to be very clear on what's an overhead expense versus a recoverable expense. And so we help our owners clean that up as they're going through that.
That's awesome. Congratulations. It's a really cool product.
Thank you.
Please stick around till the end. We may have something for residential operators as well. So great. Jeri, I have a question. When did you and your partner / husband, when did you leave your day jobs? When did that light come on where you said, you know what, this is what we're going to pursue, or is one of you still working a day job?
No, we peeled off at different times because of healthcare. So so I peeled off first, and then Uriel went part-time, and then he ultimately peeled off, and I think he peeled off in 18. Or so, it all kind of blends together at some point. Sure. But it was a gradual thing. It wasn't we both just quit our jobs. It was a gradual, stepping down outside of that corporate world into Stratafolio.
Very nice. And how big is the team now? And are you serving clients in all 50 states or mostly, give us a profile of your company, like how big is the company?
Yeah, so we have clients in Canada, the United States, Bahamas, and we actually have clients who have properties in countries outside of the United States as well, but they wanted to be able to see their entire portfolio within one software. So we're able to do that as well. We have customers all over the United States in pretty much every single state now.
Yes.
Yeah, and our team is remote across the United States as well. So we're in nearly every time zone as well.
Very nice. And how big is the team?
Yeah, we have 7 people that support full time, and then we still have some contract support as well.
Sure.
That help us with a number of things.
Very nice. And then tell everybody where the company is based out of, and then to end the presentation on a bang, tell us what time you go to bed and what time you wake up.
Yeah, so we're based in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and our day, well, it starts a little earlier for Uriel and me.
Hi.
But it starts around 3:45 in the morning.
Wow. Wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah, so this
All
is
right.
for us.
All right, great. Let me see. Any last minute questions, and then we'll go to David. But Jeri, thank you so much. Very enlightening. If there's commercial operators that manage their own properties, please do reach out to Jeri at Stratafolio.
Thank you so much, Bobby.
You bet. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. David, let me see. I hope you're, well, you're in Utah, so hopefully you're still up, but we will make you, no, you're already a co-host, so it's all yours. And let me see.
Hi.
All right.
I have a quick question.
Yes, go ahead. Hey, Karen, there's a big lag. I don't know if it's a lag or in your audio, but go ahead, please. All right. David, are you there?
I'm here. Yes, sir.
Okay, there we go. All right.
Oh, I see. I don't know. Maybe I have to switch my laptop. Can you hear me?
Yeah, now we can hear you, but it's like there's a massive lag. How about you chat your question in, and I'll respond to it. Yeah. Okay. All right. So, folks, look, many landlords during COVID, prior to COVID, a lot of problems with collecting rents. Maybe the situation was such that they didn't pay rent for real reasons or whatever made up reasons, but there was very little recourse that landlords had against tenants, like whether it's legit or not, doesn't matter. But people go through an eviction process, they get a judgment, the tenant skips town, hard to track them down, all that. They change, they go rent a new property, they use a friend's name, they're using their cousin's name or whatever to lease a new property. But the landlords often they hold the bag on trying to collect the rent. It happened to me in Indianapolis. But the verification company and David and Steve there have really tried to analyze the eviction process, the rent collection process, and they've come up with what I think is a genius way to maybe work with the tenant to get them current on their back rents and so on. So when Steve and David were telling me about their company, I'm like, my members have got to hear this. Like, more people need to hear about this. And so, I'm really thrilled, and that's why I saved up David for the last. Plus he's in Utah, so West Coast. So, but really, this is very important for those of us that are landlords that don't want to fight, use attorneys and so on and so forth, run up the bill with the attorneys to get the rent back. This is a very powerful tool that you should all be aware of. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to David.
Bobby, thank you. I don't have any slides to go over.
Okay.
Jeri, excellent presentation. I should have got with you before the meeting, that we could have put some numbers and stats and had some graphs, because I'm a little old school. It's going to talk about what I do and how we could potentially partner together with your audience here. Also, I like the fact that first thing I'm going to share is, get the revenue that's owed to you. I'm going to steal some taglines from Jeri. I'm going to talk about ROI, because as real estate investors, that's one thing you're concerned about. Jeri touched on her services collect more than the fees cost. So I'm gonna go over that, as well as how we can get an ROI. But what we are is we're a data furnishing company, period. And what we do is we're a third-party neutral provider. We work with landlords, and we report on time and delinquent payments to TransUnion and Equifax every month. All right, whether it's residential, whether it's commercial, HOA, or condo fees. Okay, so there's a little bit of a variation there, and I just say that because I don't know who the audience is. What's going on right now throughout the
mostly real estate investors.
Okay, so owning commercial as well as
residential and commercial.
Okay, and as Bobby was indicating, a lot of times we want to focus on what's your debt. Some people carry a debt load. I'm going to go over the things that Bobby touched on in a little bit, talking about the ROI. What we do is, every month on a 23 report. This month we're going to report on the 18th. Once we report, by the 5th of the following month, the absolute latest, it's going to hit the tenant's trade line. Okay, which is important. With our company, there are some.
David, explain what is a trades line to those who don't know.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So if I have a credit card, that credit card is going to report to the credit bureaus as a trade line. All right, it'll show a revolving account. If I have an auto loan, if I have a mortgage, if I have student loans, those are all different trade lines that people have on the credit bureaus. So we have our own trade line that we purchased with our partnerships with the credit bureaus. So when we post it on there, it will show as an open account, and it'll show up as a lease or a rental agreement. We have the date of the move-in, the date of the contract beginning. There are specific data points that we enter into the reporting, which is obviously name, address, the amount of rent. That's, are they current? Are they delinquent? Because we can put a balance on there as well. The same that a credit card or the other things that most people are kind of familiar with. So it's our trade line. Now that I'm talking about the trade line, I'm also going to talk about, when as a landlord, let's say that someone owes you, let's just call it $10,000 of delinquent debt. As Bobby was indicating, there's a lot of people that have issues with this, and they can run from the landlord all they want, but they can't hide from the credit bureaus, which is very pivotal. So when there's a delinquent balance and somebody wakes up and they see 100-point decrease in their FICO score, it's gonna motivate them. We're going to use a carrot or we're going to use a stick You know, if there's some parents on the line, Mike, like myself, we want to lead different ways. So sometimes, you know, the tenants are going to need a little motivation to get caught up. So what they do is they may challenge the trade line, and they may call it fraud. What's important is we have what's called an e-Oscar account. We handle all disputes internally with our company. So we don't third party that out. When we do get a dispute, we qualify that with the landlord that reported it. So in this case, let's say Bobby is the landlord. I'm gonna say, you know, I'm gonna get in touch with Bobby. You know, I'm the customer service for my clients. It's not in a, you know, it's me here in Utah. It's not third partied out in a different country. So you're going to be able to, you know, talk to me live. Any questions, concerns is always comes back on me. I'm going to get in touch with Bobby, and I'm going to say that, you know, for Jeri, I'm going to use your name as an example. Your client is contesting this. I may need a copy of a lease agreement, or I may need a copy, you know, showing that in fact that tenant was delinquent with their rent payments. And then once we have those line items from the landlord, what we're going to do is we're going to qualify that, report back to the TransUnion and Equifax, and say it's validated. So at that point in time, that debt balance is going to stay on there for that current tenant. So at that point in time, sometimes the tenants will call us, and we refer them. We say, we're just a data furnishing company. You have to contact your landlord, all right, which is important. We're not a collection company. We don't take any percentages. Bobby touched on attorney fees. You know, some people use collection companies. In the area here of Utah, they're charging about 30% funds recovered. I know in different parts of the country, they charge upwards of 50%. So with the current tenants, we advise them to call the landlord. The landlord has the autonomy, and they're driving the bus to collect money that's owed to them. So if Bobby wanted to say, listen, that, you know, let's use my name. If I was the tenant, you could say, David, you could pay me in full, okay, and owe me what, you know, pay which is owed. And then Bobby could say, I will delete that off of the trade line, okay, which is very valuable for a lot of these tenants. If I'm going to try to negotiate my payment with Bobby, Bobby's going to say, well, listen, you know, if you want to pay me whatever, it's going to show up on your trade line is paid collection, zero balance. So we're going to give the tenants options and let them choose to what they want to do. I'll just assume that the majority of people will know on here, if there's a derogatory on a trade line, it's going to stay on there potentially 7 years. I know there's some legislature going on. They're trying to circumvent and shorten that, different things, but it's all up in the air right now. So there's going to be a derogatory. So that's going to, you know, pigeon-toe that person into potentially renting again, unless, like Bobby was saying, they're going to get it in their brother, sisters, cousins, or someone else's name. But they're not going to be able to purchase anything. They're not going to be able to rent, and they know that. So they're going to correct the situation promptly. In our cost is we do annual reporting. So it's either $39 for an individual a year, or $59 for multiple people on a lease, whether it's 2 or 7 or more. So the thing about it is, it's important to know that, you know, for that specifically. One of my clients in the New York area, they have about 130 doors. They reported a small portion because they wanted proof of concept. They want to see how it worked. So they took around 30-ish tenants, and it was a mix of delinquent and on time. We can't just take on delinquent debt from a client because we are not a collection company. So what happened is we paid the fees. Less than 2 weeks, the tenant calls us up and says, what is this? We said, well, this is so-and-so. They reported the data. So that landlord collected $21,000 of past debt from a current tenant in less than 3 weeks. Okay, paid in full. You guys know as investors that sometimes these people want to save the money that they're supposed to pay for rent. They're going to go out and buy a Mercedes, Cadillac, whatever else type of vehicle, or they're saving that money for a down payment on a house. So, getting what's owed to you is very important. Now we're talking about current tenants right now. If there's some of you that have been in the game for a while, what we also do, and this is not a service that we charge for, I'll be very clear about that. We can go back 6 years and 11 months. So if you have any past tenants that owe you a delinquent, we can put that on the trade line as a collection. Okay, they could be working wherever, they could be living wherever. They're going to wake up one morning and they're going to see a little dive in their FICO score, and it's going to motivate them to contact us, which again, we don't do anything. We refer them to the person that reported the data. Everything that we do, I's are dotted, T's are crossed because of the relationships we have with the credit bureaus if we ever get an audit. So everything is done, you know, from a compliance standpoint that needs to be done. The company was invented by an investor. He has 50 doors. The company's been around for about 10 years. Company went through a name change in the last few years for the verification company. So it was born a while ago because the owner wanted to hold his tenants accountable. So it did. It motivated his tenants to pay on time. And you know, I would say he's got 50 doors, so he carries about, which is a national average, you know, right about a $50,000 debt balance, which is helped by motivate, you know, with the delinquency that are being reported, you know, he catches up on that really quick. So he's not using an attorney to send a letter. He's not using a collection company that charges a percentage. He's dealing with it with himself. You know, for some investors, you know, the thing that I talked to some folks is some of you may be in acquisition mode. You're looking to acquire new asset. Okay. Well, once you assume that asset, you know, the first thing you want to do is potentially call us up and see what we can do to start working together. Not with the current, not only for the current tenants, but going after the past debt. Okay. That's a big to do with some folks, because as Jeri was indicating, all of her data points, which was way above my head, excellent information, but that's what it is. It comes down to dollars and cents. It comes down to profit and loss. All right. And at the end of the day, we want to be in a business for profit. So the thing about it is, if there is acquisition mode in the future for anybody here, you know, Bobby, maybe you could just put my, and again, I'm at home, I'm not in my pajamas yet, but I don't have, you could provide my name, number, and email if possible to the group.
Absolutely.
And then at that point in time, if anyone would like to schedule a call, if your situation is, I think I saw something. So Bobby, was there any questions that come in? Because I'm on my cell phone and my eyes are a little mature these days. So
No, all good.
I have a question.
Yes.
What is the minimum information you need? Sometimes I don't have the social security number. Sometimes the tenant, you don't know where tenant actually lives now. What minimum information do you need?
excellent question, Sylvia. Thank you for asking that. So first, we want to help you out with your current tenants, because we're not going to help someone with the tenants that moved out. I want to be clear about that. I mean, we're not the Red Cross. That's a service we provide for our clients that we're working with. So the data points is, you know, so it would be, you know, David Ruzick, it would be the address, date of birth. Okay. And, you know, that's pretty much it. We understand, you know, obviously sometimes social security numbers are funny with older folks, but the credit bureaus can identify me with my first name, my last name, last known address, and date of birth. That would associate it is not going to be fraud, okay, on TransUnion or Equifax. So that's all you would need, Sylvia. Not necessarily a social security number, but that would be the minimum requirements that we would need to report.
David, just to build on top of Sylvia's question, if I were to collect rent in cash, is there some kind of paper trail that I would need to show to the verification company?
Good question. So as far as property managers, you're saying it's just as far as coming on board to report?
Yeah. Yes.
No. What good example? again, I wish I collaborated with Jeri because she did great as far as onboarding and everything else. To onboard a client, there's the data points that we need. We don't necessarily need a lease agreement or how the funds are being collected by a property manager. So it's the data points. It's first name, last name. Okay. It's going to be the address that I'm at. It's going to be when my lease started, what my lease amount is. Am I current? Am I delinquent? Things of that nature. So we're not reporting to the bureaus how rent is collected. If it's cash, check, Venmo, that's not what we do at all. No. The other thing I want to also indicate, thank you for asking that question because you stimulated something up here, is it's possible that some of you deal with damages when a tenant moves out. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
All the time.
Okay, so the thing about it is with that, so again, let's say I'm the tenant and Bobby's the landlord. If I move out and I get mad and I'm going to kick the toilet, I'm going to do things, guess what? We're going to minimize your opportunity to as far as a legal court. We're going to efficient because let's say that I'm leaving and I owe $50,000. Not only is Bobby going to report the $50,000, he's going to report the potential damages as well. So at that point in time, it may be $85,000. Okay, that I'm going to be on the hook for. It's being reported before that's going to get off there. I think I saw another question come through.
Folks, I hope you're appreciating the power of this system that they've built, reporting these lines to the credit bureaus, because this is a lever that you have as a landlord, and it's extremely powerful to protect yourself with tenants that are going to skip out on you or damage your property. This is one of the levers you have in your tool chest to protect yourself. Anyway, go ahead, David.
That's fine. So the question from Karen is, it says, David, how is the verification more effective than a tenant background verification done by a property manager or landlord? Excellent question. Somebody mentioned Zillow Rent Manager. Okay. We did a pilot program for them a few months ago, and it was just basically verifying landlords because our process is pretty effective. This was a year-long relationship going on with our CEO, Steve, communication with Zillow. And they vetted at least 12 to 15 other companies, and they chose us. So as far as we're not doing a background check, so I want to be clear about that. I have other partners, in similar revenue, as they were saying before, and I don't say the name properly, but there's different partners that I have to connect with people. If someone does need someone to do a background or things of that nature, that's not what we do. Our verification process, again, if I'm the tenant and I'm signing up for the service, we go through a process with that to verify past tenant data. But as an investor and a landlord, you're not having to do that. You're giving us the data to report. I'll give you an example, another example. A gentleman in New York took over a new asset this year, and he reported, some delinquents and some on time. Well, I get a call up by a lady that her fiance is reported, and then at that point in time, they don't have a lease. So again, we have private label partners that we partner with. So my partner in the New York area, I said, hey, get in touch with your property management company. I need a copy of a lease on Mary Jane. The landlord was unable to produce that lease, so we had to delete that off of the trade line. So that person's living there, going through different processes that are legal and everything else, but there's nothing that we can do. There's another question that came in. Let me go to here. I'm a landlord managing properties through a property management company. How do we use the rental verification services? Excellent question. Call me up. The questions that I'm going to ask is, how many doors do you manage? Okay. So let's say if there's, we'll use simple numbers because I'm a simple man. If there's 10 doors, out of those 10 doors, how many multiple tenants do you have on the lease? You know, so again, if it's multiple tenants through all 10, you're paying $59 times 10 is an annual cost to us. There's no contracts and there's no hidden fees. Okay, so that it's simple. As I do have different partners throughout the country, there are some different rent reporting companies that will say that they only charge $2 a door. I've had my partners on the street say, well, you know, that sounds great. I wonder how they're making money. If you can show me your invoice, I can show you that that's incorrect. Because what they're doing is they're actually, there's add-on fees, there's setup fees and everything else. So someone just has to contact me. Again, you know, we'll go through a little questionnaire on the phone. And at that point in time, we can move forward. As I said, we report every month on the 20th. So if there are some people on a call that, you know, we're already going to be reporting this month. I mean, if you wanted to get it in, what's the date today? So we're going to be reporting in 2 days. We're going to report early. So if anybody would want to do it this month, it's not a rush. So I'm not even going to say that it is. Let's just talk this month and then report it next month. So the other example I want to give is out of those 10 doors, let's say there's 3 tenants that are delinquent. Okay, again, you're paying $59 for the year. If those 3 tenants, let's just say they're all delinquent $25,000, as again, was Bobby asking before, we're gonna report that. It may show $1,000 for the rent, but it's going to show that they're $20,000 owed, which is, again, the FICO score is going to take a dive. Tenant's going to be motivated to rectify that very quick. All right, let me go to the questions because I think I see some more coming through. What snags have you hit in California? It's a very pro-tenant, anti-landlord. So we won't talk about politics. We don't run into anything with California because as the moratorium ended, there are specific dates that you can report. So as an example, I talked to a lady a couple of weeks ago. She's in Oregon, and she said, we can't report anything. I said, well, yes, you can. So I did some homework for her, and I showed with the Oregon State Bar that after June of this year, it was June or July, I can't remember, they can report tenant data. So California is the same thing. You know, California had a Senate bill 1157 that went live this July. So anyone that does any affordable housing, if you manage 15 or more doors, you have to offer this as an option to your tenants. But there's no snags in California. Some people, I would just say check with you know, your attorney. What I suggest to people, if you're going to do it, give your tenants a 30-day notice. Okay, so if I'm going to, you know, if I'm Bobby's tenant, Bobby's going to send some type of communication to me. You know, in 30 days, we're going to be reporting all of our tenants' data to the credit bureaus. You know, if you're caught up, this is gonna benefit you in the positive. If you're not caught up, you might want to get caught up so it doesn't adversely affect your credit. Susan K, what about if it's older than 7 years, but already went to court and there's a collection out and the former tenant is evading it? Can you report that? Older than 7 years? Absolutely not. 6 years and 11 months that's the deadline that the bureaus allow us to go backwards for past tenants. Does anyone have any live questions they want to go to? Yeah. Or Bobby, as I see you thinking over there, your mind's going back and forth.
I've got, man, I got so many ideas. All right, so let's say somebody has a portfolio of 20 properties, and let's say 5 of the tenants are very stable, being around, never late, but they want to engage with you on the properties that are troublesome. how do you price your service for a landlord? Like, what does that process look like?
So let's use the 20 properties. Highest case scenario, let's say every 20 properties, multiple tenants, Bobby. It's $59 a year to report all of those 20. No, I'm sorry, individual. So $59 times 20 would be the total annual cost that landlord is going to pay us, period.
So 60 times 20, about $1,200 to cover them for 1 year to report on all 20 properties. Okay. And then do you build in any discounts for volumes? Like somebody may have 150 properties and somebody may only have 3 properties. Like do you have any?
Excellent question. Absolutely. And our breakpoint's 1,000 at the 1,000 tenants. I was a part of this. I became a part of this company last March when I was in the coaching space. I was coaching real estate agents and mortgage lenders nationally. Did it for 6 years. Our pricing last year was a whole lot higher. This year, I moved from North Carolina to Utah in February. Leadership, we had a get together as far as we had a price reduction. Okay, so this is very this was very methodically thought out with our pricing. Obviously from a return on investment standpoint, but our break point is 1,000 for a reduction in that.
Yeah.
Because again, and I'm good, if there is the mom and pops here, the first thing I talked about is return on investment. So let's just take that 20, Bobby. With that 20, we're going to help you recost more. Number one, it's a write-off. Okay, you already know that. But number two, we're going to help you recoup more than you actually paid for our service.
Yeah.
So you're gonna get it. And then as you have new tenants moving in, guess what? You're going to have an addendum in there that, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Tenant, we report all of our tenants to the credit bureaus each month. Now, we're not a screening company, but that may refer people that kind of know how to play the game in certain states, and I won't mention any, but someone mentioned in the chat room. Okay, people know how to play the games. But what that's also going to do, it's going to attract credit conscious tenants to your portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're profitable, you're efficient, you're minimizing your risk and your debt ratio.
Mm-hmm.
So for that minimal cost, it's definitely worth it. But good question.
Yeah, gotcha.
I'm going to go to the chat because I saw something pop up.
Yeah.
If a tenant owes almost 2 years of rent and took the government rent relief money and was supposed to give it to the landlord and now moved out, can we report it? This is California. Absolutely. Because what they probably did, they probably went out and was live, my opinion, I know opinions are like belly buttons. Sometimes we don't want to see or hear them, but they probably went out and lived La Vida Loca. They probably used that money to a down payment on a house. But if it's 2 years, let's definitely talk. Okay. If you want to report them this month, who was that to ask the question? Let me go back to the chat. Jackie, how many doors do you manage total?
Hey, Jackie, if you want to unmute yourself.
Oh, yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Oh, actually, I'm asking for my friend. My friend told me about what happened to him and really pissed me off.
Yep.
Jackie,
how many doors does he have or she?
I think less than 10.
Yeah, so Jackie, just put them in touch with me. We could do a three-way call. If you want to do it tomorrow, if they want to report it this month. But at the end of the day, it's no rush, like I said, because even if we report them next month, okay, you're within a time frame that person's going to wake up one day and say, what the heck is this? And they're going to try to research it, whether they say it's fraud, whatever they're going to say, it's not going to get off of there. So Jackie, again, so like I said, when we get a dispute, you know, we qualify that with your friend, the landlord. And once they give us the data that we need, we report back to the bureaus and they say, you know, check, 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 you know, this is valid. So then it's going to stay on there. So no, someone that did that, it's possible that what they did is they acquired a home or different things, but yeah, they skipped out, and we can report that, but we want to make sure we're working with the whole portfolio with the individual as well, not just the one individual that went bad. Because, and the reason I say that, because if we're just reporting delinquent, it's not in line with our relationships with the credit bureaus.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did that,
Okay,
did
I
that
think
answer your question?
Yes, yes. I think I'll ask my friend to, you know, get in touch with you.
Yeah. And Jackie,
Okay.
I put David's contact info in the chat. If you need an introduction, let me know. I'll put you in touch with David, but it's all there.
Sure. Thank you.
Another question came up. Do we report any other type of debt, not just rent? Thank you for asking that, because I almost forgot. Yes, yes, yes. And this is something I was sharing with Bobby initially, is we can report undisclosed loans. Okay. Undisclosed loans, what that means, if I buy a vehicle at a lot and it's buy here, pay here, most of those car lot folks are not reporting that to the bureau. So if you own a car lot, if you're doing buy here, pay here, if you're doing lease to own, rent to own real estate, we can report that as well, as long as we have a contract. Okay. Now, again, the you as property managers and landlords, we're not going to need that up front. There is some specific things we need if you're reporting commercial tenants. We'll need a copy of a personal guarantee. But other than that, very good question. Was there something specific that you had in mind for that question, Fong?
Fong, if you want to unmute yourself.
Commercial lease. Yep. And I apologize. If I didn't say that, we're doing commercial and residential.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Wow, this is powerful. Yeah.
David, quick follow-up to that question. I know that Experian has something called Experian Boost that connects with, you know, utilities like, you know, gas, water. Is this something that we can also report on for the tenants? Like, for example, if they're letting electricity go delinquent, is that something that we could do?
Good question. We don't do utilities. That goes in a different category with the credit bureaus. It's an other, you know, so where sometimes people will do the boost, you know, it may look good on it may look good, and it depends what their focal point is to do that. Okay. Are they trying to get a loan? Are they trying to you know, just better the credit? You know, it's so there's different reporting models. Okay. But no, we don't do utilities. Self-reporting is an option, okay, for people. Okay. But at the end of the day, you know, everyone that's on the call is an investor and a landlord. There's no liability for you. Okay. Someone mentioned California. The question that I had, you know, more than a handful of times is, what's the liability on me as a landlord? I said, absolutely nothing, because we're the one that's doing the reporting. The first thing I said is, we're a third party neutral provider. We get data and we report it. So when someone's contesting that, they're contesting it with us because it's our trade line. Sometimes, you know, so did that answer your question?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Question, Sylvia, can you help if I only had one or two problem tenants and only a few rental credit check a year? Sylvia, how many doors do you manage?
I have single family homes.
So good. So you have the SFRs. How many do you have?
I don't have that many. I have maybe 6 or 7.
Yeah. So Sylvia, touch base with me, because yeah, the single family homes, such a hot market. I was watching a video today on that. But yeah, if you just have a couple problem tenants and you just have a handful of rentals, absolutely, we can help you out.
I
The
mean,
59
is it possible to have, just to get help like 1 or 2 times, or do we have to buy a whole package?
Oh, okay. Good question, Sylvia. No. There's no packages with us. Sylvia, as I was indicating earlier, let's say you just wanted me to help you out with 2 problem tenants. We cannot do that, period. Because what that makes us look like is a collection company to the credit bureaus. When we're reporting, let's say that we're reporting a past tenant that owes you debt, that's a free service that we provide. Okay, because we're not a collection company. So let's say that you had the portfolio, and we're working with six of your current properties. That would be a service that we would provide in addition to what you're paying. So it's not necessarily a package. It's just that as long as we're working with you in a capacity, we can provide that for the problem tenants, as you're indicating. Does that answer your question, Sylvia?
So we have to, I guess, then we have to pay like monthly fee or annual fee. Is that the idea?
Okay, good question. So that was the next question that came in. Is it $59 a tenant per month or a year? There's 2 prices that we have. Okay, it's $59 if there's multiple people on the lease. That's per year cost, period. There's no setup, no sign up, no hidden fees, no contract. If it's an individual on the lease, it's $39 per year, period. So again, there's no packages, there's no add-ons. It's just a fee for service. So, and again, I don't have a calculator, but Bobby, do you have a calculator? You could do 59 divided by 12.
So you only do current tenants?
$5 a month.
So
Sylvia, the question is,
the past tenants that moved already, you don't deal with them at all?
yes, we do. Look, give me an example. So you have 6 single family rentals. Okay.
I have one rental that's out of state, and he moved out, and he basically owed a lot of back rent. But so in that case, do you do out of states? And he moved out, so I don't know whether that's going to be.
We do all of the continental US. I was in Puerto Rico a couple months ago. I have a partner that has family down there in the business. Since they recognize the reporting as well, we do Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands. I think Washington, D.C. is not a state, but it's Washington. I don't know how they term. We do the whole continental United States, yes. So Sylvia, as an example, you have the one tenant, owes you X amount of dollars. I won't ask you that on the call now. But again, if we're working with you with your current portfolio, okay, then we can justify helping you out with past tenants. Okay, if we just reported a past tenant for you that is delinquent, that raises a red flag. It TransUnion Equifax for us, because it's like, oh, they're acting like a collection company. Now, when we report past tenants that are delinquent and owe you money, we don't collect a percentage off of that. Okay, so we're that person's going to act really fast to figure out what this is. We refer them to you, Sylvia. So then you say, listen, whatever, Mike Smith, Mary Smith, you owe me the money, however you want to negotiate with them. But if they pay you in full, Sylvia, you have control. So you need to say, listen, Mary or Mike Smith, you need to pay me what you owe me. Once you pay me what you owe me, I will delete this off of the trade line. That's the control that you're going to have with your current and your past tenants.
How about
Did that-
past property managers that owe me money? Can you help out in that way too?
That's a good question. I don't know. If you touch base, shoot me an email, and I'll find out from the owner tomorrow. And I'm going to need to know a little bit more, Sylvia's kind of what capacity. So I'm guessing okay, so you have out-of-state properties. I've never had that question asked to me. Send me an email with the question, Sylvia. I'll ask the owner tomorrow, and I'll have an answer to you hopefully by lunchtime in Mountain Standard Time. Sylvia, did that answer all your questions and concerns?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. And then the other question, like I said, $59/tenant per month per year. It's an annual cost. What I was going to say with new tenant, when you have new tenants moving in, okay, you could make it $100. You could make it whatever you want and call it an admit fee. Okay. So now as you have new tenants moving in, this is not a cost that you're paying. This is a cost that your tenant's paying. So different size portfolios will work it differently. But again, I want to talk about current tenants. I want to talk about past delinquent tenants. I want to talk about your future book of business just as well. So we're covering the whole ball of wax. But initially, we just want to help you out with your current portfolio. And then you'll send us your debt ratio for your past delinquents. Again, 6 years, 11 months backwards. We'll post that at no cost. And then depending on how often you have your tenants moving in, you could do that as well. We would just what we would do is we would get a sheet, and all I would need would be your company name and a logo, and I'll have my processing team create a list. I mean, not a sheet that would be an acceptance sheet that your tenant would sign, and then once your tenant signs that, you just send that into us every month. And the ongoing reporting, I want to touch on that as well, is the ongoing reporting every month. So initially you sign that person up. Every month you're just going to report to us, David Rosick is on time, or David Rosick is still delinquent. So that delinquent number may go up, okay? Or the on-time people may stay the same, but there's going to be the monthly obligation that you're sending us an update also.
Does it have to be everything that a person owns, or can it just be like in a certain city, or how does, yeah.
Susan, repeat the question, please, so I can understand it.
If I wanted to sign up for your services, but like certain units in certain cities haven't really been a problem. But in one city is where all the problems are. Would I be able to just sign up all of those units?
So you just want to sign up all of the problem units?
Not the problem units, but the units in the problem city.
Give me an example, like how many doors or what does it
Well,
look like?
let's say I have like 5 doors in LA and 1 in like Phoenix and 1 in Utah or something. Can I just sign up the Los Angeles units?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, you can. Okay. Again, as long as it's not all delinquent. I want to clear, and that's what I believe I heard you say.
I understand that. Yeah, I totally say, I know what you're saying, because it creates a flag. But it's like, if I have one-offs here and there that have never been an issue, like I don't want to have to sign all those up if I don't need to.
Well, Susan, here's the thing. Excellent point. The thing about it is the folks that are on time, okay, you can let them know if they want a positive impact on their credit report that you have the availability to do this now, and all they need to do is pay you $99 a year.
Got it.
Now, I'm talking about the ongoing reporting, because what we could do for the good tenants, okay, we can go back 24 months to report good payments, okay, which is $99 for an individual. We go back 24 months, And that also includes 12 months of ongoing reporting. Okay, so you can have the client pay for that. If it's multiple tenants that are good tenants, good paying tenants, the same thing. We can go back 24 months. It's $149 to do a historical report, but that includes 24 months back reporting as well as 12 months forward. The reason that I don't talk about historical, because most of the times we're talking about delinquent tenants, certain liabilities with the COVID moratorium and things of that nature. If there's a good tenant, the historical reporting is going to benefit them. It's going to give them a positive impact on their FICO score, their trade line. So if they have auto loans, credit cards, they can get lower rates just as well. But Susan, good question. You know, and again, yeah, if you don't have to pay for it with the good paying tenants, you could potentially just send them an email or contact them. If they would like to, you will provide this to the credit bureaus each month. They just have to pay for it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for the question. Bobby, did you have questions as well, my friend? I don't want to run over too late.
Oh, no, this is great. This is great. I think this is wonderful. I don't have any other questions. Everybody has your contact info and they can reach out to you if they need the service. They should at least consult with you to do a deep dive and understand the offering. And thank you, David, for staying up and sharing these. Yeah, I think this is a very powerful service that landlords need to protect their assets. So this is great. Yeah, wonderful. Any last minute questions? If not, I have a quick presentation for the folks that are still here. I know Steve Lemke is still on. I don't know if he is or not, but anyway. Oh, hey, Steve. So this is our portal. This is the website we've built called bettercapital.us for more focused on residential properties. And I'm going to figure out a way to integrate David's rental service in here. But for example, you can come in here. You can see your whole property. You can see all your documentation. This is like Stratafolio, except for residential operators. Okay, so you get the whole ledger. You get all your financials in one place. You set up your investments in one place. You see all your KPIs all in one place. And so if I click on rental, you'll see the performance. All 7 of my tenants are current. And if they were behind, this would be a 1 or a 2 here. But this is something we've built for real estate investors. We just launched it a few months ago. We have a pro version now, and I can dive into what the pro version and the free version do. But basically, you have full bank integration. You have the ability to keep your documents in your Google or your Dropbox account. We do allow you to bring in your documents into our system, and you can tag them, you can search them. So for example, if I do a search for lease, I will see a lease here. Okay, so that's the idea behind the search. But you can track your private money lending, your syndications, your rentals. These could also be the short-term rentals. So if you have Airbnbs, you could track those. But everything to do with your properties all in one place. You have a calendar. And right now we're building Google Calendar integration. So you don't you can set everything up inside your Google Calendar. But this is something that we built for small to medium-sized real estate investors to track their properties. So this is called bettercapital.us. And then lastly, I wanted to share with you Better Capital Fund. So this is a fund. I'm a private money lender. you can co-invest with me. So if I do a loan for say $500,000 in Oakland, California, as to a rehabber, you can then come in and instead of writing a check for $500,000, you can write a check for as little as $1,000. As long as you're accredited, you can invest with me and make about 9% on your money versus the money sitting in your bank account making 0.05%. So if you have money making 0.5% in B of A, Wells Fargo, Chase, you name it, or in a CD, think about coming and investing that loose change. I call it, the loose change that's sitting in your bank account or your self-directed IRA. It's not doing anything.
How long is that locked up for?
Minimum 1 year. But
Okay.
But yes, minimum 1 year. But you can build a portfolio of real estate investments. So let me just show you that. So I'll show you what that would look like real quick. It won't take more than a minute.
So
And
instead
what's
of
the
putting
minimum
20
to get
grand
in?
in, you could put $5 grand a month or something.
Yeah. You
Build a
can do
ladder
that.
of them.
You can ladder. You can build a portfolio. So I'm going to show you what it would look like. So we invest our money into the loans at first, and then you can come in and you can co-invest with us. So this is a property in San Leandro this one happens to be a very low LTV. It's worth about 1.2 million. It's owned free and clear. We gave a loan of 100,000 on this property. So imagine that 9% LTV or something on this property. We have a whole bunch of other properties that you can lend against. Here's a property in Kentucky. Again, I think
Is this all first position?
all first position. So yeah, 45% LTV on this beautiful house in Kentucky. And on this one, we're paying 9% to our investors. And you can build a portfolio starting with a minimum of 10,000, but then you can build a portfolio and then you can ladder in, they mature at different times and so on and so forth. Hey, Karen, yes, please go ahead and ask. My dear friend.
Put on my video. Hey,
I'm good. How's Eugene? How's my babies?
they're doing good. We're actually on the East Coast. We got to catch up because we moved to Philly or
Good for
suburban
you.
Philly. We got to catch up. But I wanted to ask you, do you guys do bridge funding?
Yeah. So we do, as long as it's secured. So by the way, that's an amazing question. So we are both where people can borrow funds for their fix and flips, and people can invest their capital in fix and flips. So we do the sourcing, we do all the due diligence, we do all the paperwork. Then you come in as an investor and you can co-invest with us. So if the loan is, for example, like I said, 500,000, and you don't have 500,000 to lend to Karen, then we will lend to Karen. We will put the loan on our platform. Then Jason and Ashley and Kathy and Jana will come in, and Steve will come in with 5,000, 10,000, 15,000, whatever money you have laying around, and you can co-invest with us on the bridge loan. Karen, send me an email. Send me the terms. Okay, what we care about is how is that money protected. Ultimately, that's what we care about. Okay, and I know you're a very experienced rehabber, so we look at your experience, we look at the market, we look at what you bought it for, we look at we will do seconds, but there's a lot of conditions attached to that. So let's talk offline about that. But we have done some seconds. For example, we did a second in Gilroy. The house was worth 1.5 million. He owed 350, and we lent him 200. So it was 550 on a house worth about 1.5. Okay, we're willing to take that chance. So let's chat.
Thanks,
Okay.
Bobby.
Rajiv, like I said, if there's enough equity, we'll do seconds, but we prefer not to. We prefer to do first. And we have plenty of demand for first, to be honest with you. But yeah, we will look at a second if there's a lot of equity in it.
So question, why would somebody that has their house free and clear take a first with you and pay 9 or 10% for it?
Yeah, because we make it super easy. We're not, you know, we don't make it complicated.
But they just have bad credit and can't actually manage to.
No, they don't have bad credit. No, the guy owns it free and clear. He just needed $100K quickly to rehab the property, and yeah, he's yeah. We make it easy to work with us.
So are we in it for like a syndication? Are we partnership, or what is the?
Yeah, this is a PPM. It's a fund, and it's an SEC registered fund. So it's not quite crowdsourcing, but you are a member of the fund, and you get pro rata share of the loan that you're invested in. So minimum 100K, you can come in. I'm sorry, minimum 10K, you can come in and you can build a portfolio of loans. You can say, listen, I want one in Kentucky. I want a loan in Gilroy because it's going to mature in like 3 months. So you want something fast, and then you can roll over into other loans. But you can build a portfolio. So we pay about 1% less than what the borrower is paying us. We take out about 1% for operations costs, and then the rest of it goes to the investors. And what we do is, compared to traditional private money lenders that had to look for borrowers, and then when a loan was returned, then they have to wait for the next borrower. So there's a lot of downtime. With us, there's no downtime. Okay, you come in, we usually have anywhere from 15 to 18 loans on the platform. Once one loan matures, literally the next day, you can roll it over into another loan. And we're constantly, lending on new properties. So it's me and my buddy Max, he's been doing private money lending since 2010. I've been doing private money lending since 2014. We were doing it separately. We came together, and now we're doing it together. But question.
So the money that we put in, is it backed by anything, or it's just?
It's a first position lien. No. It's a first position lien on the property. That's it.
But you say the fund has the first position.
Yeah, you're right. The fund has the first position lien, yeah. And you're a member of that fund. Karen, let me see. Does co-invest mean that the investor will get an undivided stake in it? So it's a pro rata share of a first position lien on that loan. And all of that is specified in the PPM and the subscription agreement and all that. So Karen, if you want to reach out to me, I'll explain how that works. But the fund, which is a limited partnership, has a lien on the property, and you're a member of that fund. And then the way it's defined is you have rights, pro rata rights to the lien on that property. But again, like I said, so it's a fractional. It's almost like a fractional ownership of that loan.
I think the key part there is that when one of those loans pays back, you said like if the Gilroy one is a couple of months or something, that fund pays back. That money is return of capital to the investors. It doesn't go back into the fund for another investment, right? The fund has some amount of investments, and as each one clicks off, everybody gets their pro rata share of that. Is that correct?
Yeah, you nailed it. You nailed it, Steve. So what happens is that loan comes back, and the investors that were in that loan, they get their funds back. Then they can go log back, and we communicate that, hey, your loan matured. They can log back in the next day and say, oh, okay, there's a loan in Memphis. It pays 9.5% or whatever. Put some of my money in there, put the other one in this other loan, and your money's back at work. We pay monthly. And at the end of the year, here's the beautiful part. You get 1 K1, okay? So versus trying to collect 1099s and this and that from everybody, in our fund, you just get 1 K1 for all of your investments. You may have done 100 investments in our fund. You'll still get 1 K1 at the end of the year. Another thing to note is this year we focused on debt only. In 2022, we will be doing equities as well. So we're looking to invest in equity positions as well. So then the goal is that you build some debt, you build some equity. Maybe you really like a deal. Maybe you really like a self-storage deal in Denver, Colorado, but the minimum is 100,000 to get in on that deal. Well, let's say we like that deal and we've invested 100,000 of our money in that deal. Then you come in with 5,000, 20,000, 18,000, whatever you got laying around. Now you can participate in that deal in Denver, but you didn't have to come up with the whole, $100,000 to get in on that. So now you can build a portfolio of investments, and and the money's working, and you're getting distributions and so on and so forth, interest payments. Yes, Karen.
Now, did you mention? I think you mentioned something about you have to be an accredited investor
To invest in the fund. Yeah, we do. You do have to be an accredited investor.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. Let's see.
But incoming investments into the fund are earmarked towards a specific property that's funding. Is that how that works? Then your investment comes into the fund, but it's not across all the things in the fund. It's just targeted in specific things, or is it going to whatever your need is going for you? Because you showed all the different properties, right? It's like there's 10 properties that you're funding, and money comes in. How do you know which properties it's going to?
No, the investor selects.
Okay.
They select
right.
Which property they want to.
So you say, I'm putting $5,000 in on the Gilroy place and $10,000 in on the Kentucky place or something. You're investing in the fund, but it's earmarked towards those.
Exactly.
Things.
You
okay.
got it.
And then when they pay off, then that money comes back and you can choose to reinvest it as a new investment in the fund if you want. Yes. Cool. It's actually very cool. So it's like you're doing, kind of the individual things, but you do it all under the guise of one PPM and one fund. And the cool thing is you get 1 K1 at the end of the year instead of a whole bunch.
You get 1 K1 at the end of the year.
It sounds like a nightmare for your accountants, though.
So the back end that we've built takes care of a lot of that. And I manage the operations, and it's interesting. It's definitely quite a bit of work, but for the investors, it's meant to be easy for the investors. So the idea is we've got all these loans on the platform, and then you come in and you say, well, this one pays 10%. And then let me say this one on Coach Drive pays 9%. I'm going to put, and this is the beauty, you don't have to put an even amount across all of them. You can put 5,000 in Bull Pine and 20,000 in Ridgewood and 15,000 in Redwood Highway. So you can build a customizable portfolio for yourself. That's the beauty of the system. The manager, the fund manager is not deciding how much they're going to allocate. You, as the investor, you get to decide how much you want to allocate to each one. So that's the beauty of our.
Are all of those people waiting for the money to come in and
No,
fund their
no,
loan, or did
no.
you fund them already out of? So you funded them already. The money is coming in and basically paying back whatever cash slushes in the fund.
Yeah. So we have skin in the game because we fund this with our own capital. Then we put it on the platform. So remember, sometimes escrow needs to close on a certain day, and you're struggling, you know, for the lender to sell something and transfer funds, and no, all that drama is gone. Borrower needs money. We have underwritten the deal. We fund it. We put it on the platform. If investors come in, great. If they don't, no problem. Our money is at work. If we funded $100,000 and we only were able to fund 80,000, no problem. Our 20,000 is still at work. And the beauty is the funds can come in at any time. So there's no stress. There's no pressure. You want to invest next week, you want to invest this week, you know, you want to do a self-directed IRA, and that's going to take 3 weeks to process all the paperwork. No problem. We can wait. So that's the beauty of our system.
So Bobby, what percentage of your historical portfolio has not met the target return?
So far, luckily, Rajiv, knock on wood.
I love this. This is great. So, yeah, just curious what bad things have happened, if any.
Yeah, and every now and then there'll be a slightly delayed payment. And now we're working with our borrowers to, you know, streamline the payment process, because sometimes, you know, they want to do a Zelle, PayPal, Venmo, all these things, you know, Cash App and all that. But we're slowly streamlining all that and making it, you know, more disciplined.
Okay.
So, but sometimes they've been, you know, where it was due on the 5th and it came in on the 9th. So, but yeah, but you know, those rarely happen.
You haven't had any like litigation or, you know, any kind of delinquencies as such?
No, luckily, no, so far, no. Yeah.
What if you have to foreclose on them? What do you do in that case?
Well, I mean, that's the best case outcome for us, but of course we don't want to do that. But that is the best case scenario, because we have so much equity in those properties that we wouldn't have a problem foreclosing on them.
So
but-
do the people on the funds get partial equity from that sale?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, if we come in short, let's say we lent 500,000 and we only collected 400,000, then it's pro rata. Everybody will get shortchanged, but hopefully that'll never happen. But, or the other way, the guy put in a lot of work in the property, just ran out of time, or something happened, got sick or whatever, couldn't finish the project. Then we would either come in, take over, finish the project, sell the property, and then that gain would pro rata come back to the shareholders or the members of that loan, not the members of other loans, but just the members of that loan.
That's a really good structure. I love it. That's nice.
Thank you, Rajiv. Thank you. Yeah, we put a lot of thought into this. This is, like I said, an SEC registered fund. We went through a lot of legal and accounting due diligence to bring it on board. And yeah, it's working. We have funded about 31 loans so far. And, you know, our investors are happy, you know, but it keeps me very busy with, you know, maintaining the system and the books and the accounting and so on. But Steve, you know, I know you mentioned you had a software background. I'd love to get your take on bettercapital.us. Please give it a try. If any of you own single, real estate assets. By the way, you can track your loans on bettercapital.us. You can track your single family, your short-term rentals, if you're an LP in a syndication, you can track it in bettercapital.us. And then hopefully in Q1, I'm working between Better Capital Fund and bettercapital.us. The monthly distributions will be displayed or be shown on bettercapital.us as well. So you'll log into bettercapital.us and you'll see your whole portfolio in Better Capital Fund as well. So we're working on that integration. Hopefully have it ready in Q4. So yeah, I'd love to get your feedback, Steve, and others. Let me see. Any other questions? Karen, reach out to me. We'll chat about your loan, and and also if you're a fix and flipper, you need capital, we can lend through the fund for your fix and flips. So
Bobby, I actually don't need it. I just wanted to know about it just in case if that was a need in the future.
Yeah. By the way, I'm doing a lot of loans in Pittsburgh. It's been an amazing market for one of my rehabbers that moved from the Bay Area to Pittsburgh, and it's been a super market for us. So if you do decide to start flipping in Philly, please do reach out to me.
Definitely.
All right, guys. Thank you very much. I'll do one more event in December, but otherwise, have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Thank you for coming today. Please let others know that we do these things and we help each other out. But yeah, if you have any needs or wants, let me know. Thank you, Leo. Thank you, Karen. It's near Carnegie Mellon. Believe it or not, there's an area around Carnegie Mellon that these guys are operating in. So
I thought you were referring to Pittsburgh, California initially.
Oh, interesting story. He was actually looking to do flips in Pittsburgh, California. When he Googled, he ended up somehow on Pittsburgh, PA, and he uncovered this market. And now he's done so many flips, but it all started with making a mistake on Google looking for Pittsburgh, California. And so yeah. Even today, I'm funding his loans. So it's a good market.
Yeah, Bobby, I heard you talking about virtual real estate, the metaverse. We got to catch up. We have to do like lunch. I know you're in Florida.
Well, maybe. Come down, my dear, and Philly to Miami, not too far.
Come on up. It's not too far of a flight. We'll catch up.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Bobby.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Lon. Long time no see. Vinay, good to see you, my friend. And Jason, thank you for everything. And Jay and everybody. Steve, hope to hear from you and keep in touch. And we'll see you in a few weeks. Thank you, everybody.